It's been raining here all day. It rained last night too. So just a mess in this bee yard. This is the yard I use for holding bees to load up on large trucks and send them out and receive. This is 576 colonies. Was supposed to be shipped out to Colorado last night. They're bought and paid for. It's actually the second time I had to postpone. I've had a semi-truck full of bees stuck in the mud several times before, and I don't need to do that again. That's just no fun at all. A man in Colorado purchased these bees to boost his outfit before he goes into the almonds next spring. It's September 29th today. He's going to take them to Colorado, leave them there for a month, and then move them down to Arizona around the 1st of November. Sounds like a pretty good strategy to me. He has yards that are just west of Phoenix, between Phoenix and the California border. I'm familiar with that area. I was born in California and traveled that road many times. I'm sure that's a wonderful place to overwinter bees and get them ready for the almonds. Anyway, so kind of raises the question, why don't I send bees to the almonds? I have many times. When I lived in Oregon, I did it every year, and then since I've been in Georgia, I've done it several. Not afraid of doing it, I just don't want to anymore. I'd rather stay home and do what I do best, and that is put colonies together and make honey and sell them. These days I'm a little more attracted to making bees than I am selling honey. It's not that I don't like making honey, I just like making bees more. Every year we make a lot of nukes and packages and sell them, and the last several years I've been selling quite a few colonies. Last year I sold 800, and this year I'm up to 800 already. I might sell a few more. I had an ad in the American Bee Journal for 1,000. That was my goal. Anything over 800 and I'll be happy. One of the reasons I'm attracted to selling nukes is because it continuously cycles out frames. You know, I'm not trying to sell my old junky frames. If you sell enough nukes, you don't get old junky frames because they're always moving. When you sell colonies like this, you're doing the same thing with your equipment. The pallets, the boxes, and the lids, they're all cycling out. You're always turning your outfit over and making things fresh. So this year I'll sell about a third of my bees. So, I'll be refreshing that much of my outfit. Also gives me the opportunity to keep my employees going all winter long, building equipment and painting and getting things ready for the spring. I've always promised my full-time employees that I keep them on through the winter. I keep them busy. Used to be when we were running out of state that in the winter we'd keep everybody busy going to the southern bee yards, working bees in the winter, but I don't do that anymore. Kind of changed the way I do things. The equipment in this yard is, some of it's fairly new and some of it's several years old. It's kind of hard to keep it all separated. I just let it all go together. Some of these boxes are 10 or 12 years old. Some are just a year or two old. I'm not selling junky equipment. I'm not selling junky frames either. In fact, some of the people that have already picked up bees from me have been pleasantly surprised at the frames and the comb in there. They're in pretty good shape. I sent out 104 to a man from Tennessee last week, and he called me on the phone and just said he was tickled to death with what he got. So again, I'm not selling junk stuff, but it's kind of like selling a used pickup truck that's got 100,000 miles on it. It's still got a lot of life in it, but if you sell it now, you're getting rid of it before it turns into something that's not very desirable. It's really a win-win situation. The person selling is getting to turn things over, and the person buying is getting something at a lower price, so it makes it more doable for them. Sometimes the best way to get into the bee business is to buy used equipment and used colonies, so you don't have to pay full price. Starting from scratch can be a lot of money. This way somebody can get going without spending near as much. We yarded all these colonies up in 2 nights. It was really kind of pleasant. We had a full moon. The weather was cool. Didn't get stung much. There was no mishaps. I've just been sitting here for a couple days waiting to get loaded and go to Colorado. It's cool today. There's hardly anything flying at the moment. This is the coolest day we've had in several months, since early spring actually. These colonies are pretty full of bees, so don't let this picture fool you. It's kind of interesting standing in the middle of all these beehives. I can actually smell that brood smell. When you get this many good colonies in one place, it's a really interesting odor that comes out of here. I just call it the brood smell. I don't know how to describe it. You can't. It doesn't smell like anything else. We'll start loading the truck tomorrow around sundown. If we're on our game, we can get the truck loaded and tied before it gets pitch black. Have 2 forklifts. Should be able to get it loaded in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. They'll be on their way to Colorado. Whenever I'm asked what it takes to be successful in the bee business, I always recommend that people diversify their income. Just depending on honey can be kind of precarious unless you're in an area where you have dependable flows. That's not our area. We do have bad years, and I've got payments to make, property payments, truck payments. I've got to make some kind of money every year. And the way I've pulled that off is by selling bees in the form of packages, nukes in some colonies, and also pollination in the past. I don't do pollination anymore, but that was one way of diversifying my income. I also got into the honey packing business. That was another way of diversifying income. When you're a honey producer, you got to be willing to ride the wave. You know, some years are great, some years aren't so great. I've seen a lot of people that had 5 or 10 or 50 colonies and have a few good years and say, you know, I can make money at this. They put pencil to paper and say, this looks pretty good. Go out and borrow a ton of money from a bank, and suddenly they got 500 colonies. And then in a year or two, they have a bad year or two in a row, and suddenly they're bankrupt. Well, that's where diversified income comes in. You need to figure out other ways to make money besides just making honey, unless, like I said earlier, unless you're in an area where your honey flow is dependable. There are such areas. I've never lived in one, but I know they exist. I see other people doing it. Here in the Southern Appalachians, I'd say maybe 1 out of 5 years is just a bust. We just don't make hardly anything at all. If I was depending on that for a living, I'd have a real problem on my hands. Anyway, selling bees is a good way to diversify income. Again, I like doing it. I like building things, so it gives me an opportunity to keep building, keep refreshing, keep renewing. This is going to sound really funny, but when I look at some of these boxes, they kind of bring back memories. Reminds me of where I bought them, where I picked them up at, how long I've had them, who was working with me when I put it together. Some of these boxes have been with me so long that I can remember my teenage sons helping me put them together 20 years ago. A box like that might have been brand new this year. So the fellow that's buying this stuff isn't getting a bad deal. He's just having to pay a lot less than if he was building it from scratch. Again, I think it's win-win.